Good morning, Hansa. Thank you so much for joining me this morning.
Good morning, Ria. It's amazing to be here. Thank you so much for having me here and making me part of your projects. It's very exciting. I'm very happy to be here.
Oh, thank you. I'm so happy for you to be involved too. But we don't actually know each other. We were introduced by a mutual friend, Jacqueline Hollows. But based on that recommendation, I'm sure we're going to have a lovely conversation. So would you like to tell me a bit about who you are and who you are in the world and who you are in terms of writing? That would be really good. Thank you.
Sure, yes. Yeah. Well, my name is Hansa Pankhania. I'm a mother and a grandmother. I've got 2 kids and 3 very beautiful granddaughters. In terms of work, I'm an author, an executive coach, and a speaker. But basically, in terms of what gets me up in the morning is this craving to help people and help them to be happy, healthy, and live their life to their full potential. And so I do this through my one-to-one work, through group training and speaking, and obviously through my books. I am also blessed to have a team of people who share this vision with me. So they're all part of the wellbeing consultancy that I run.
Nice.
So that's me.
Lovely. And do you just want to tell me about the books that you've written, at least the titles of them?
Yeah, so I've written 7 books so far. The first 3 are a series of stress to success books, so they're work related. Then my 4th book is my memoir that was inspired by my friends who were intrigued about an Indian origin woman born in Africa, living in England. And then I wrote another 2 work-related books, again on well-being and resilience building, and literally passing on very simple techniques, natural techniques that people can use and integrate into their daily lives, which will make them happy and healthy and bring meaning to their lives and bring them back to their hearts and souls. And then my last book is the first of my children's books, which was launched just before Christmas. And this is again to help children to use very simple natural techniques to be resilient and well and keep them in tune with their hearts and souls.
Oh, lovely. There's a couple of things in there that really struck me. So the first one that I really liked was that you called yourself an author first and then executive coach, although obviously you clearly have a passion for helping people with their well-being. And the mix of books that you've written, so from work-based books to memoir to work-based books again, and then to children's books, and the first of your children's books, I like that as well. I can see why people would want to hear your story already, just from the little bit that you've told us. But I'd really like to hear about your story as a writer, if that's okay, especially having written 7 books.
Okay.
That's quite an achievement for a lot of people, especially quite a few of the people that I'm working with are really on their first book. So it'd be really interesting to talk about that. So would you start by telling me how you got started writing? How did it all begin for you?
Okay, well, I've always loved writing. When I was at university, I used to love doing my theses and my essays, and all the students used to think that I was crazy. But I actually enjoyed that part where you would research and then bring it together into a final, interesting, written piece of work. And I actually really loved that process. And at school, my favorite subject was English literature. I got the best marks in my GCSEs in English literature. So I guess there was a writer hidden inside me that I didn't know was there. And then my first book kind of just happened. We were writing case studies for of a newsletters on a regular basis, and these were case studies that were inspired by my clients and the managers that I was working with. And then one day this idea just came, like, why don't we do a compilation of these case studies and turn it into a book, because um, and actually that's how the first book happened. And my business manager at that time, he did some research on how to publish it, and there it was. And then when once the first book happened, the second one happened in a very similar fashion. And then with the third one, I had an intern who was working with us, and we were talking about the project that she could work on. And over the years, because I had had a lot of natural, simple techniques that I had come across through my work and my research on stress and well-being and resilience, the project we gave her was to bring all this together, into one document. And then that became my third book. I turned it into a 28-day program that people can follow. And that's how the third book happened.
Wow.
And my memoir was my fourth book. And it was my friends who actually pushed me and inspired me to write that, because I always got asked the question, so how long have you been here from India? And I said, I've never been to India. And he says, oh, but you sound Indian and you look Indian. No, I was born in Africa. Oh, so you were born in Africa, but you're Indian origin, but you're living in England. So, and I had to repeat this story, and then uh, a few of my friends were really fascinated by my story, and they would ask me questions like, so who do you identify as, Hansa? Indian or African or English? And I would say, no, I'm proud of all three of my identities. And then one day, one of my friends overheard me on a conversation with my sister over the phone. And I was using, in one sentence, I was using three languages together. And I had to repeat this story again, And then she said, Hansa, look, you've already written three books, but you've got to write on this, because this is fascinating. People need to know your story, and they need to know the colonial history of how your dad was a British subject in India, and then he moved to Africa, and you were born there. And a lot of British people don't know this colonial history. And then she did some research, and she said, Hansa, there's no narratives of first person people who've grown up in the British colonies, and you must write about this. So I said, well, I've written work related books, like I've never written anything like this. But and I was a little bit anxious initially, but once I started writing, I couldn't stop, and I just kept writing and writing. And that became my fourth book.
Wow.
The other two were written last year in the lockdown. And they were actually inspired by the lockdown and helping people to cope with the challenges of the lockdown, and helping them to be resilient and well, and to keep your mental health at the forefront, especially within the work related context, which is my specialism. And so they were inspired by that. And then my last book was inspired by my granddaughter, who I'm seeing her growing up, and she's growing up in this crazy commercial world of social media. And I'm thinking, like, it's not long before she's going to lose touch with her heart and soul, with all this craziness around her. And I'm concerned about mental health for young people. And how do we keep them in tune with their hearts and souls, and their truth, and their true being, and that's what inspired the children's book, and I used my granddaughter as a frame of reference when I was writing
Nice.
it. And that's my first children's book, but my seventh book.
Yeah. I love how the way that you're talking about each book came about in different ways, because I think that not everybody who wants to write a book, they I don't know if they, I don't think it's that they think that there's a particular way of it happening, but are not appreciating that there are lots of different ways in which a book can happen. And I've had similar experience where I had the idea for a book and then I wrote about the idea, and then the same as you, having that experience where I'm halfway through and realise I'm writing a book here, not realising that that's what's going. So I love the fact that you have different experiences of the different books that you've written in terms of the inspiration. So I'd like to ask you about your actual writing process. Is it day to day or that? Because people seem, often people will talk about the fact that they haven't got their writing process and they think that there's like a magic way of doing it. And the more that I speak to people who have written books, the more that I'm seeing that there's lots of different ways in which people consider their writing process to be. So can you tell me a bit about your writing process?
Yeah, sure. I think I start off with free flowing writing. So this is something that I pass on and work with my clients as well. It's extremely therapeutic and cathartic. So whatever is bothering me, whatever's going on in my mind, whatever reflections I have after I've read a book or spoken to somebody or seen something on TV, whatever I'm thinking about, I'll just start writing about that, free flowing. I won't even think about what I'm writing, and it'll just, and then I'll look at it and I'll see what themes are coming out from it and the patterns that are coming up. And then the areas that interest me, I will do some research on it and add some more content. And eventually, kind of, that turns into a book. I might use that material for blogs and articles, and eventually I might use some of those blogs and articles as part of my book, and I look at the themes that are emerging. And the two books that I wrote in the lockdown last year literally happened that way, because I was trying to make sense of the lockdown, in my own head, and what was going on in the world and the people around me. So I wrote these blogs, daily, and I tried to empty my mind and make sense of what was going on in my own head, and what was going on in the world. And eventually, kind of, they turned out as two books.
Yeah, that's how my book in the pandemic started. So I was writing about my experience. I wasn't writing in a way to kind of help people or tell them what to do or how to manage it. It was just basically me navigating my experience of the pandemic, and I was posting it on social media, and then all of a sudden realized it was a blog. So I really get that.
So for me, it's a bit of both. So it's about me trying to make sense of it myself and what's going to help me. But my aim always is, whatever I have learned, to share it with as many people as possible so they can learn, and eventually my hope is that it would help other people as well.
Nice.
So my own journey of self-help, but then how do I use my own learning to help other people as well? And obviously books are a great way of doing that, so if you can put all that into a book, then that's even better, out to more people.
So when you were talking about writing, you did this. So do you write straight to the computer or do you handwrite?
I write straight in the computer. So so I've got kind of notepads everywhere. So I've got one by my bedside, and I've got one kind of downstairs in the kitchen, and So, when kind of things come to me, I'll kind of make a note of it. And,
Right, yes.
My husband's used to this, in the middle of the night, I'll kind of, something will come up, and I'll put the side lamp on and I just kind of scribble something on my pad. And then in the morning, I'll look at what was that and maybe write a few paragraphs about that.
Yeah.
But it's whatever's going on in my head, and I'll kind of try and catch it when it comes to me, and then develop it at a later point.
Yeah. And do you write every day? Is it something that you do every day, or how often do you write?
So I try to write. I write blogs and articles a couple of times a month, and then if I'm working on a particular book, I will put aside that time to work on that book, and I'll put aside a couple of days in the week.
Yeah.
So I aim to kind of be doing my normal work at the beginning of the week, and then the latter part of the week I'll be writing, and keep it more kind of flexible and open to other things, to the creative process, and have that room for creative thought, to go for walks and meditate, and to you know work with my creative energies. So that's how it kind of works. I'm not kind of disciplined that I write a certain number of words every day like some people do, or they'll think about it, or they'll think through what they're going to write and get it together in the head and then begin to write. Because other writers I speak to do things quite differently. For me, it's very spontaneous, and I'll work with whatever's going on for me at that time, and then I'll make time to write more when I need to. So that's how it works for me, Ria.
Brilliant. Brilliant. So what about editing then? So if it's all very spontaneous, tell me about what happens in the editing process for you.
Okay, yeah. So because I've written in different genres, I have a group of editors who I use. So I will, depending on what I'm writing, I will choose the appropriate editor from my network, and I'll send off my my first draft for a structural edit. And once I get the reader's report and the structural edit, then I'll develop the manuscript, and then there'll be a few more edits before we come to the final manuscript. And then the copy edit is done right at the end with another editor who can put a fresh pair of eyes on the manuscript. So my structural editor doesn't do the copy edit. I have somebody else who does the copy edit at the end.
Yeah, because you really need a fresh pair of eyes on it at that point, don't you? Yes. Okay, lovely. So earlier on you said I don't know if this applies to all of your books, but certainly when you were talking about writing your memoir, you had a little bit of anxiety about that. So tell me about any gremlins that you have that have the potential to get in the way of you writing and publishing.
Oh, I've had loads and loads of them. Is what I'm writing worth it? Am I good enough? Am I showing off? Am I being arrogant? Most of the stuff about being an imposter syndrome, I've been through all that. But thankfully now there's less of that. I feel I've got my confidence as a writer. And it's mainly because when people come back to me and say what I've written or what they've read has helped them, and it's made their life better, and it's enhanced their quality of life, given their life meaning. And when I get feedback like this, it gives me the confidence to go on and on and on. So I would say that there's less of those gremlins about actually the writing process. But I've got a few about the marketing and the publishing side.
Yeah.
which I'm trying to overcome.
Yeah. So what are those gremlins?
So I think the publishing side, I've nearly overcome them. And then the next bit is about the marketing. So I'm working on a marketing plan, and getting the grasp of social media and all these different retailers and outlets. It's a minefield out there. But how do I overcome them? Something within me that compels me to go forward and seek help, because nobody around me, as I have been growing up, has written books or set up a business, and but there's something within me that pushes me and compels me to do these things. So when I get frustrated, I reach out and I ask people for help. I join groups. I will read up on the things that I don't know and I need to learn. So at the moment, I'm reading a few marketing books and speaking to a few people about that. Um, and I will seek the help to overcome those gremlins, and so I'm not afraid to reach out and ask for help. Because as being a writer is quite isolating. You're in your office, doing your own thing. So it's very important to speak to people and join groups that will support you through that process. And actually, it's that's helped me to overcome my gremlins, and the more feedback I get that people are enjoying my books and finding them helpful, this inspires me to then keep going on and on, and I'm just carrying on.
Oh, brilliant. Because it can be that when you first put the work out, especially in the early days, when you first put it out, it can be really quite a scary experience, can't it? Because you don't know that the feedback that you're going to get is going to be positive.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've had lots of feedback where, it's surprising sometimes. I get really scared about, especially when I'm waiting for that feedback to come back from the editor. And I have all sorts of questions, about, oh my God, why am I doing this? It's going to be rubbish. They're going to just come back and tell me how crap it is and all that kind of thing. And then when the feedback comes back, it's not that. I mean, they do make suggestions for changes, but it doesn't mean that your work is not good, does it? It just means they're just helping you to make it read better. But the actual story itself and the messages are so helpful to people, aren't they? When we're sharing our own stories and our own learning, especially.
Yeah, I think it's about the message, isn't it? You make such an important point there, Ria, because, I believe that everyone has a book inside of them. And I believe everybody has something unique that they need to share to make this world a better place. And everyone, needs to be writing and putting it out. And, just focus on the message, focus on what is it within you and what is it unique within you that will help another person. And actually, you'll find a way of getting that message out eventually.
Yeah. I love that. I don't think anybody said that in the conversations I've had before about focusing on the message, that the things that people will learn from it, that it actually will be helpful. I think it's realizing that if we've been through something and learned from it, like there's loads of other people who are going through the same thing, who your story will resonate with, isn't there?
Oh, there'll always be somebody, with whom your story will resonate, and what you share will be helpful. I think sometimes we get too hung up on, oh, this cover doesn't look right, or oh, this font is wrong, or which I've done with all my books. But at the end of the day, somebody comes and says, I read that story and it resonated with me, and it prompted me to do something different, which has helped me. But that bit, that's the most important, and I think it's about us focusing on that as writers.
Yeah, brilliant. So you were saying about the publishing and the marketing bit. Is kind of the bit that you've still got a few gremlins over, even though you're trying to get over them. And that's even after having published 7 books. And I really get that, because I know a few people that I've had conversations with early who were at the early stage of writing are already getting worked up and worried about the publishing and the marketing side of it. So what would you say to people about that?
So if you if you want to produce a book, then you can't get away from the marketing and the publishing, because it's no good writing a book and keeping it in your drawer where nobody will see you and nobody will be helped by it. So they are a package, and it's about remembering that it's a package. And it really is about taking one step at a time, because it is a minefield out there. But you know, I can't believe I'm saying this, because when I did my first book, uh, uh, I was absolutely overwhelmed by the marketing and the publishing side. But you know, with your first book, you learn something. Then with your second book, you learn something else. With your third book, you learn even more and even more. And you know, you will move forward on this journey. It's just taking one step at a time.
Yeah.
And if I, you know, if I share my own story here, as you know, this is my seventh book. So with my first book, I self-published it. Then I tried some partnership publishing with a couple of others. My memoir was traditionally published. Then I published a couple on the digital platform. And, you know, after having all these different kinds of experiences, I gained the confidence to set up my own publishing house. So my first children's book, which is the Chakraji and Calm Callum, is published by my own publishing house.
Brilliant.
But you know, I, 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 I would never have said this when I was about to publish my first book. I'll get this far, but really, it is about just taking one step at a time and just go out there, speak to people who can help you, and get on that first ladder, then the next rung of the ladder, and the next one and next one.
Yeah.
And you know, with and it's a learning process, you know, and it's a journey, and just enjoy the journey. Let go of the fear and just enjoy the journey.
Yeah. I love what you said about reaching out to people to help you. Like that, I think that's the thing for a book. I think maybe in the early days when you don't know what's ahead of you, you think that it's a completely a process that you do completely alone. But it's not, is it? Like there's loads of people around who can help in different ways, and
Yes.
it becomes more of a collaboration than
Yes.
you know
Yeah.
yeah,
because after a while, I mean, you join writing groups, and then after a while you'll have a network of editors and publishers and you know, writers, and you know, you can help each other and collaborate with them. But it's building this network bit by bit.
Yeah, that's lovely. Thank you so much, Hansa. So you probably covered this already, but there might be something that you haven't said that you would you'd say. So what tip would you offer to anybody who's starting out now on their journey? They know they want to write a book, and they're right at the beginning of that journey. What would you say to them?
So lots of people are coming to me now and they say that they would like to write a book, but they don't actually sit down and write.
Right, yes.
And you know something, I did this myself, you know, I was saying for years, I wanted to write a book, but I wouldn't actually sit down and write a few words every day. So that's the first tip, actually, you know. And like I said before, you know, I believe everybody has a book within them and something unique to share with the world. So just start writing about the things you love, you know, if it's cooking, if it's music, whatever it is, you know, whatever you love, just start writing about it. Whatever's bothering you, start writing about it. You know, whatever you're thinking, start writing about it, you know, and actually sit down and write a few words regularly. And when you've built up to a few thousand words, you can look at the themes and the patterns that are coming up, then do some research and add more content to it. And that's your first manuscript.
Brilliant. You make it sound so easy, Hansa.
But actually it is, you know, as simple as that.
Yeah, I think that it's a really good point, that, because we think writing a book is a really hard thing, but like you said, if you just do it one step at a time, like that's all we can ever do. We can only ever do what we can do in the moment. And in the moment when you're starting off, the best thing that you can just be doing is writing whatever's coming out of you.
Yes, yeah. So
Without
I'm
thinking
making
about
that
how
book.
good it is or anything.
No, it doesn't really matter. And I think people get hung up on the grammar and the copy editing, which really you don't need to worry about at that point,
No.
because grammar and the copy editing comes at the end.
Yeah.
You know, it's the content at the start that inspires you and that you love thinking about and love talking about and love writing about, you know. And so you just begin with something, writing about things that you love, you know.
Yeah.
And then, you know, there's research, then talk to people, and then bump up the content. And you know, somebody will help you to turn it in, shape it up. And then, you know, you could speak to a good editor who can help you to shape it up into a proper manuscript. And there you go, you got your first book.
Yeah. So it's not to worry about all of the stuff that will happen later, just write.
Yeah, I think the grammar and all that's not important. It comes
No.
at the end, you know.
Yeah.
And a good editor will help you with that, so you don't need to worry
Absolutely.
about those things, you know.
Yeah. And even if you can't afford an editor, just getting somebody else to have a look at it who's maybe a bit proficient in terms of you know, grammar and spelling and all of that kind of thing can be a help, can't it?
Yeah, and you got lots of software these days as well.
Oh
That
yes.
helps you. Hemingway and Grammarly, you know, all that software helps you with the grammar.
Yeah.
And you know, we've got people called beta readers. So you've got a group of people in your network. Show it to your friend. You know, show it to somebody who's written a book, and you know, somebody around you will help you to shape it up.
They will,
And
won't they?
take your ideas forward.
Yeah. Oh, that's so lovely. I've really enjoyed our conversation, Hansa. I'm going to have to bring it to a close, unfortunately. But so just to finish off, if people want to get hold of you or find out more about what you're doing, how would they do that?
Okay, yeah, so I have my website. So all my books are on my website, and all the services that we run on well-being and resilience are also on my website. So my website is A for Apple, U for umbrella, M for mother, consultancy, consultancy.co.uk. I'll be very happy to help and support people, whether it's anything to do with resilience and well-being, or with writing books, you know, to act as a mentor or a guide. You know, I'm very happy to help people along their journey and move forward along their journey, and make their life more meaningful and happy and healthy. So, you know, I'd love to hear from your listeners on anything that I can help them with, or
Oh,
just,
lovely.
you know, just to have a chat and get to know each other, and have the kind of interesting conversation that we've had today. So I'd
Yeah.
love to hear from all your listeners.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Hansa. I really appreciate that. Thank you for a lovely, lovely conversation. And I, for one, I'm going to be going from here. I'm going to be ordering your memoir because I'm really interested in reading that one.
So if people want a signed copy, it's best to buy from my website
Okay.
for a signed copy. And the best place for a signed copies is to buy them through my website. But they're also available from Amazon, bookshop.org, Barnes and Noble, and Waterstones as well.
Brilliant. That sounds like you've been taking note of your marketing learning to me.
Getting there. Getting there.
That's lovely. Thank you so much, Hansa. I really appreciate the conversation this morning. It's been lovely meeting you.
Awesome, Ria. I've really enjoyed our chat. It's been amazing, and I've thoroughly enjoyed our chat. So I'm looking forward to collaborating more with you and hearing more from your listeners.
Lovely. Thank you, Hansa.
Okay, bye for now.
Bye.
Bless you all. Bye-bye.